What if America stopped importing oil from Canada? Imagine you wake up tomorrow and America announces, starting today, we are done buying oil from Canada. No more Canadian crude, no more pipeline deliveries, no exceptions. At first, Americans celebrate. Finally, we're independent. Canada looks confused. Wait, you actually want to stop buying our oil? And then someone checks the gas station price. $4.89. Okay, maybe independence was expensive. But here's the crazy part. America imports a huge amount of crude oil from Canada. So what happens if that supply suddenly disappears? Gas stations, trucks, factories, airlines, food prices, and eventually, the entire economy starts asking one question. Who thought this was a good idea? Day 1. The oil stops. At midnight, the imaginary order goes into effect. Canadian oil stops flowing south. Across the border, pipelines that normally carry crude into American refineries suddenly go quiet. Canadian officials stare at the numbers. American officials say, "We have plenty of oil." And technically, America does produce a lot of oil. But there's a problem. Producing oil isn't the same thing as instantly replacing the oil you're no longer importing. Refineries are built to process specific types of crude, and many U.S. refineries are heavily connected to Canadian supply. So America can't simply say, "Fine, we'll make our own," and magically create millions of barrels overnight. It's like losing your favorite grocery supplier and saying, "It's okay, I'll just grow everything myself." Sir, the tomatoes take time. Day 3. Gas stations start sweating. At first, most people don't notice. You fill your car. Maybe the price is slightly higher. Then the next morning, it's higher again. And suddenly, everyone becomes an oil economist. Your uncle is standing at the gas station saying, "See, I told you this would happen." Nobody remembers him saying it, but somehow he's very confident. As oil supplies tighten, American refineries start competing for replacement crude. That means more expensive imports from other countries. And when the cost of crude rises, the cost of gasoline can rise too. Now imagine millions of Americans paying more every time they fill up. That's when the problem becomes very real. Week 1. America starts shopping. The United States starts looking around the world. Okay, who has oil? Mexico? Sure. Saudi Arabia? Possibly. Brazil? Maybe. Other producers? Absolutely. But there's one tiny problem. Everybody knows America needs oil. And when a giant customer suddenly comes shopping, sellers don't exactly whisper, "Don't worry, buddy, same price as last week." They negotiate. Hard. Oil traders see the disruption. Markets react. And suddenly the price of crude becomes a global problem. Because oil isn't just an American product. It's one of the world's most important commodities. Week 2. Canada feels the hit. Now let's cross the border. Canada isn't sitting there eating maple syrup and watching America panic. Canadian oil producers have just lost their biggest customer. That means less demand, lower revenues, pressure on producers, and potentially more pressure on the Canadian economy. Canada starts looking for other buyers. Europe? Asia? Other markets? But moving oil to new customers isn't as simple as changing the shipping address. You need pipelines, rail, ports, tankers, infrastructure, contracts, and time. So Canada has a problem too. But here's where things get interesting, because Canada might decide, if America doesn't want our oil, we'll build new routes to everyone else. And suddenly, America has accidentally encouraged Canada to become more independent from the American market. Month 1. Everything starts costing more. Now the oil problem escapes the gas station, because oil isn't only used to move your car. It's connected to transportation, trucking, shipping, manufacturing, construction, chemicals, plastics, agriculture, and more. Think about a truck carrying food from one state to another. Fuel becomes more expensive. The trucking company pays more. The distributor pays more. The supermarket pays more. And eventually, you pay more. Your grocery bill doesn't suddenly say, "Congratulations, you participated in geopolitics." It just gets bigger. Month 2. America looks for a solution. Washington now has a choice. Option 1. Increase domestic production. Option 2. Import more oil from other countries. Option 3. Use strategic reserves to help smooth the disruption. Option 4. Try to convince Canada to start selling again. And that last conversation would be awkward. Imagine the phone call. America. Hey, Canada. Remember that oil we didn't want? Canada. Yes. America. We changed our mind. Canada. Interesting. America. So, can we have it back? Canada. But then something unexpected happens. American companies begin adapting. Higher oil prices create incentives. More domestic production becomes attractive. Alternative energy becomes more competitive in certain areas. Refineries search for new crude sources. Businesses start becoming more efficient. And consumers begin thinking differently about fuel. So after the initial shock, America starts adjusting. And Canada does too. Canada accelerates efforts to reach other markets. Instead of relying so heavily on one giant customer, it starts looking outward. And that's when the story takes a massive turn. Month 6. The unexpected winner. Remember the countries America started buying oil from? They suddenly have a much bigger customer, and they love it. More American demand means more opportunities for other oil exporters. Meanwhile, Canada is trying to sell its oil elsewhere, and global oil markets have become more complicated. But there's another group watching everything: renewable energy companies. Because every time fossil fuel prices become more volatile, alternatives can suddenly look more attractive. Solar, wind, electric vehicles, battery storage, energy efficiency. The oil shock doesn't instantly replace fossil fuels, but it can change investment decisions. And that's the strange thing about economic shocks. They don't just change what people buy today, they can change what companies build tomorrow. 1 year later, America hasn't collapsed. Canada hasn't collapsed. The world hasn't run out of oil. But the relationship has changed. America has diversified its oil supply. Canada has pushed harder to reach international markets. Businesses have adapted. Consumers have changed some habits. And energy security has become an even bigger political issue. But here's the twist. America might have been trying to hurt Canada and accidentally pushed Canada towards something it had wanted for years: less dependence on the American market. And Canada might have been hurt in the short term, while gaining more freedom in the long term. The final question. So, who actually loses? America? It loses access to a convenient and deeply integrated source of crude. Canada? It loses its biggest customer and faces a painful adjustment. Other oil producers? They could gain new American customers. Renewable energy? It gets a stronger reason to compete. And ordinary people? Well, they're the ones standing at the gas station watching the numbers climb. Because geopolitics sounds very complicated until it reaches your wallet. Final twist. And here's the biggest lesson. America doesn't need Canada. Canada doesn't need America. At least, not completely. But their economies were built around being deeply connected. So cutting that connection wouldn't be like breaking up with your neighbor. It would be like saying, "I'm never speaking to my roommate again," while realizing you both still share the same kitchen, and the same electricity, and the same internet, and half the furniture. Because sometimes, the hardest economic relationships to break are the ones that were built to benefit both sides. And if America really stopped importing Canadian oil tomorrow, the biggest question wouldn't be, can America survive without Canada? It would be, how expensive will surviving without each other become?